Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Giovanni Collot, and I am honored to be your moderator for today's debate. It is a pleasure to be here in Malaga and to have witnessed and heard today a lot of very interesting conversations and debates. I'm sure that the one we're having now will be as interesting because this panel debate is dedicated to an important issue, or to at least to what we believe is an important issue. I will try to convince you that it also is for you. How business can harness the power of standardization for its success and growth. It is organized by what we might call three authorities in the field: SAN and SANELEC, which are two of the official European standardization organizations, or as we call them among friends, ISOs, and Orgalim, which represents technology industries in the EU. I thank both SAN and SANELEC and Orgalim for the support and for organizing this event. Together today, we will uncover the power of standardization for European industries, thanks to the first-hand experience of two successful companies in Europe. Indeed, just to give a bit some background to our conversation, standards have a great and often understated potential to support businesses in growth and trade. First of all, standards reduce red tape. They ensure the same rules all around the single market. They provide access to the latest know-how and technologies. And last but not least, they help access global markets. But the contribution of standards goes beyond that. You might know, or actually I'm sure you know, that this year we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the single market. Indeed, standards have provided the infrastructure itself that has allowed the single market to grow and flourish. As we like to say, standards build trust. Nevertheless, notwithstanding these benefits, there are still some challenges to the full deployment of standards power and to their ability to give benefits to the European industry. Indeed, very often standardization is still unknown or even seen as a burden by some companies and some actors in the industry. So, what is the real added value that standardization can provide to the EU industry, and how can we tap into this value and work together, industry and standardization, to really make the best out of our shared skills? Our conversation in the next hour will try to provide an answer to these questions and many others, starting from some first-hand accounts on how companies have successfully used standards to boost their growth. To accompany us along this journey, I am honored to have here with me two very distinguished guests from the industry. First of all, we have Patrick Cox, CEO of the 3E Consortium based in Italy, and Albert Casas, APAC and MENA manager at Tunex, based in Spain. We were also supposed to have here with us today a third speaker, Matthias Bölke, Vice President, Strategy Industrial at Schneider Electric, but unfortunately he had to inform us at the last moment that he could not join us because he's ill. So we are very sad he couldn't be with us, but we wish him a very speedy recovery. Anyway, I'm very sure that what we will hear today will be eye-opening, and we hope that it will feed into the strategic conversations that we are having in these days and help us imagine the future of the European industry. But before we start with the conversation, please allow me to do just a bit of housekeeping. I know that the people who are here already know that, but maybe repetita iuvant. For the people who are following us online, I don't know how many they are, but I hope there are plenty. You are free to send your questions through Slido. I think there should be at a certain point a QR code you can click on behind me on the screen, but otherwise you can go on slido.com and write hashtag EUID2023, and you have to access room 3. Once you've done all this, you can write your questions, and at the end of the panel we'll try to keep some minutes for some Q&A, and we will go through your questions. So enough from me. I already talked a lot, and let's hear from our guest. So before we start, Patrick and Albert, delving into the topic of our conversation, I would like to hear from you, please, a short presentation of your companies to make sure that our guests here understand who you represent and what you have to tell us. So, Patrick, if you want to start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Patrick Cox, and I represent a consortium in Italy of small, medium businesses. We operate in the lift business, so we perform both new installations and maintenance on about 40,000 lifts in Italy. The group is composed of 19 companies, which employ about 400 people throughout Italy. And just to give you an idea of the Italian market, as I said, we manage the maintenance of about 40,000 lifts. In Italy alone, there are 1 million lifts. And in Europe, there are 9 million lifts. So that's quite a lot. This consortium is dedicated to transforming standards into operation. We work to provide instruction, both technical and managerial instruction, to these companies to help them advance and grow. Also, due to our activities, we have been able to attract new companies into our consortium, and so allow these companies who are now into the second or third generation of their business, their family-operated business, to grow and continue to be a significant part of their local market. As such, we continue to look also into the future and see how new technologies can help us adapt and grow and become ever more competitive on the local scene, and maybe we will discuss that further on later.
Yeah, sure. And Albert?
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. In Unix, we are a manufacturer. It's almost a 60-year-old company from Spain with a head office in Barcelona. What we make is electrical materials. We make cable management systems. So basically what you need to bring the cables from A to B, support them and protect them. Our approach is based on electrical safety mostly. And for that reason, we make those products out of electrical insulating materials. So these type of products are cable trays, cable ladders, trunkings, but with this particularity, insulating. We work in more than 50 countries in many different sectors. And when it comes to standards, which is the main reason of our gathering today, we develop our products based on the existing standards for those products. So we have product standards and also installation standards that the products have to follow in different countries. So we have experience with the local Spanish UNE, as well as EN standards, IEC standards. We are members of some of the committees as well, and all of them in the context of electrical safety, mechanical safety, even fire safety, and also environmental, and not only in the electrical aspects, also telecommunications.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get back with the next question to what you already started to say, but moving more towards really the issue of standards, Patrick, what you have described as is an SME that provides training, that helps the digital transition of companies, usually family-based. So to what extent does, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, to what extent does 3E use standards, and how have standards contributed to its growth or its development, its success, I would say?
Sure. The standards are a key point of our success. It's obvious that working in the lift industry, standards are an instrumental part of guaranteeing safety to customers. The fact that there are 1 million lifts in Italy, of which we maintain 40,000, means that each day millions of Italians, as all over the world, are using these lifts because they don't even think about it. And the fact that they don't even think about the safety and the security issue means that standards are extremely effective in providing a framework and a context for customer use. And this is unequivocally a key aspect of our success. We work fully knowing that standards need to be adopted fully, and translating those standards into operational solutions is what we as a consortium help our companies understand. And in doing so, we participate with the working groups that develop the future of standards, and provide the insight on those tables of how those decisions that are being made on the working group tables then arrive on the floor and become operational impacts to the company. So this is a key aspect. Standards are a key aspect of our service, and we work with our companies and our technicians to make sure that there's a full understanding of the standard, the implication of the standard in the operational activity, and the reason behind the standard. We annually perform about 6,000 man-hours of technical training in our training center, and most of what we teach, I think, is really a consequence of the standards. And because of these standards, we are able to provide a level of service and a level of customer loyalty that allows our customers to continue to use our lifts and to continue to provide their maintenance requests and their modernization requests, refurbishment requests to us, because they know that we apply the standards because we know them.
I think this one is working well. Yeah. So on this question on how standards contribute and how our company uses the standards, I want to highlight several points. One is when manufacturing, the quality control of manufacturing, how standards help with that in our company. The standards are a very good tool to ensure continuous manufacturing according to a certain level of quality. And one example is the use of quality marks. If you are familiar with quality marks for manufacturing, it is an external auditor that will not only test the product according to a certain standard, which is usually an EN standard, IEC standard, but also audit the manufacturing plant, and also make sure that over the time, this quality is maintained according to the standard. So they can even get the product through third parties, through a distributor, test it, and check that the quality is the same quality and the same features as the first sample that they received. So that is a very useful tool for not only for the manufacturer to assure a good quality control, but also for the client, for the other side, for the technical people deciding which products to use. When they see a quality mark, they can be sure that this product is audited by a third party according to standards and continuously. Another way that standards help a manufacturer is legal. Legally speaking, following a standard gives a framework to the company of minimum requirements for the product according to the industry, to the state of the art. And in case of conflict, there is some protection for the company when you follow EN standards, for example. Actually, for example, in Europe, we have directives telling the states to apply standards, and when the states apply those standards in their regulations, rules and regulations, they become a law. So that's a very good tool to ensure that companies are legally protected, manufacturers are legally protected. Another point is when it comes to new applications, new products, sometimes manufacturers, they don't know how to start. Is this product going to be suitable for this region or not? So in general, standards are a very good tool to validate. Okay, what standards are required in this region, this region, this region? What should I need to follow to manufacture this product? Another one is not only for the manufacturer, also for the users. Engineers designing electrical installations, which is our case. They need a framework of standards. They don't need to, it happened in the past, they used to describe all the technical features they wanted for the installation or for the product. And that resulted in many different variations. And depending on the engineers or group of engineers or companies, that could change a lot. That was a very difficult way to deliver for manufacturers. So standards help to set a scenario for specification. And it's also safer for the engineer specifying. It's kind of a peace of mind that they are specifying according to a standard, not to what they or how they defined a product or installation. And then in our company, for example, my main job is international development in different countries in Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East. And standards have become a very useful way to develop or to build trust with the clients at the other end. So what you are saying is not the manufacturer saying it. It is a standard applied and certifications showing that this product follows this standard. So it builds trust with the other side, especially when your company, your product is unknown in this new region or new country. Then there's one example, for example, of OEM original equipment manufacturers. Nowadays we are in a globalized market, so they may make equipment for companies that are in different countries. And they need also a framework of standards. Because their clients, they may be in Europe, but also in the US, or they can be in Africa. They need to make products that can fulfill the local standards. So they need a way to ask manufacturers, do you have a product that can fulfill this standard? So this is very useful for the products to be accepted in different markets, because you're based on standard. A practical example of this, and as an example of success of use of standard for our company, is in China. For example, there are many OEMs and many rolling stock manufacturers, train manufacturers, and OEMs related to this sector. And in China, they built many trains for other countries than China. They also build local trains, obviously, but they need to follow the standards of the clients in different countries. And that can be European countries through the partnerships they have with European train manufacturers, or it can be African, etc. So there is this standard EN 45545 for rolling stock, which is basically talking about fire, smoke, and toxicity, fire safety inside the train in case of fire, how to evacuate people, what materials you can use, are they flammable, that are the fumes toxic, etc. So this is a standard that started to be used in China because of European clients. But nowadays, even the Chinese projects, local projects, are using that standard, and they define hazard levels according to this EN standard. And that helped many companies from Europe to penetrate that market, but also it was imported by Chinese companies, and they have started manufacturing these products out of this standard, using this standard, even if it's not their standard, and they use it in China. So that's a good example of success of standards in this sector. And nowadays, this is an EN standard that is in transition to become an IEC standard because it has become a good framework for this rolling stock sector.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interventions. I think already a lot of interesting points have emerged. Just I like the fact that I see that words like trust, quality continue to emerge, and both of you touched on it, and this is really it's really some words that we also use at San and Sanelec, and I think they are important. But and so until now we've seen a bit the positive side, the positive aspect, the benefits that standards can provide to different businesses like yours. We're talking about two different companies, two different businesses in two totally different fields. But in order to go a bit in depth into this standardization story, what did you experience any challenges in utilizing standards in dealing with the standardization world? And how were you able to address that? Or you're still finding it difficult to address them, and you're still finding it difficult to participate in standardization and to use standards? Patrick?
Yes, well, standards are a continuing challenge for our companies, the companies we represent, which are, as I said, small family-run businesses who mainly speak only Italian. Standards are not written in Italian, so you need to have someone that knows the language in which they were written. And in doing so, what we do is we provide representatives to the working groups that help write these standards and maintain them. And because of that inside knowledge, when the standard becomes operational, we know what was meant by the standard, even when then it's translated into the local language. So we've addressed it by working at the source. Obviously, the standards that impact our business are wide-ranging, and we can't be on all the tables. We can't be in all the working groups. So we find that this gap between what was the intention and what is the effect is sometimes difficult to interpret. We find it increasingly difficult, even in those working groups where we participate, to understand what the cross-references are. As we know, standards are becoming intertwined internationally, making reference to other standards without specifying exactly what in that other standard is the reference point, is an additional hurdle that adds in interpretation costs, in actual costs, in understanding and purchasing the right to access that standard. And the problem we have is that all of these activities generate costs, create additional burdens to small companies that are ill-equipped to add that extra cost to their services because their budgets are significantly smaller. So as a consortium, we pool these resources and we make them accessible to our companies. And we provide them with tools that we develop in-house that translate the requirement and the standard into operation. So we create a workflow that allows the maintenance person to follow the workflow, knowing full well that in doing so, what he or she is doing is compliant to the standards. And we simplify the process, and we make sure in doing so that we provide that same level of excellence in service and maintenance that we have been able to provide up to now. The challenge is increasingly difficult to match, in that the compliance process, the registrations, the obligations in general that are generated by standards in a good effort of being traceable and creating that paper trail, even though it's a digital paper trail now, that is useful for understanding the process in and of itself, is cumbersome and creates additional workload for everyone. So we need to find, and this is an ongoing process, we need to find solutions that digitalize the process, that simplify the registration, and allow the person in front of the lift who needs to do the maintenance or maybe needs to do a new installation knows exactly what to do because we've lined it up for him or for her. And in doing so, he or she knows that he is fully compliant, he or she is fully compliant, and the customer knows, and here we turn to trust once again, trusts us to have done the paperwork and the actual logical work through to ensure that the product we deliver, the service we deliver, is top-notch and compliant, fully compliant.
Thank you. And Albert, what about Unex?
Well, in our case, the first thing I wanted to say is companies' products follow standards, but also standards have to follow products, have to follow the industry, and this has to be matched. Then harmonized standards. For example, in Europe, as I said before, they give a legal framework, legal certainty. And because of that, it's also important that these standards that have to follow the industry also evolve with the right fluidity to adapt to the industry. So it's both ways. There is also, we are now in a globalized world where we have companies from any country. Projects are also globalized, and the standards need to fulfill this requirement to make it easy for standardization across countries. And of course, the IEC, in this case, standards help a lot with that. Then nowadays, the standards are also including digitalization and environmental points. So it's evolving, it's being adapted. In our case, for example, about digitalization, we are part of the subcommittee 23A in IEC, and that committee has a group to include the data for products according to standards to the eTeam database. If you are familiar with the eTeam or eTeam database, it's a database to describe products that is being used by electrical distributors, it's being used by manufacturers, it's being used by users. So every product will have a series of fields describing the product. In the past, no standards were mentioned, or it was very vague. Nowadays, the aim is to be more specific about which standards and which features of the products are describe the product. So that's one way, and we are contributing to that in that case. We also making digital tools which are based in standards. So when you configure a system, in this case, electrical cable trays, everything that the configurator, which is an online tool, will give you is based on standards. So you can be sure that simple things like the distance between supports is according to the safe working load test, mechanically speaking, of the standard. So what you get from the configurator follows the standards. And also the digital twins or the BIM models, BIM models, are also made, and in the fields describing the product, they also have the standard included, and that's important. And this is also how we are contributing to apply the standards. In our case, also a way to address these challenges with standards for us was to participate in committees. This helped us to learn from the experts, a very important thing for a manufacturer, to know what are the needs of the market and also for the future. And also we could bring knowledge, because sometimes the standard has to describe something that is feasible, that can be done physically. So manufacturers are very important here in participating in standards. One example is in this train sector, rolling stock sector, where fire reaction is very important of the materials, participating in the standard was important for us to develop a new raw material that could, to see if it was possible to make it and then develop it, and that raw material could help to comply with the standard. So this is how participating in committees has helped us. On the other hand, there are challenges, still challenges. Nowadays, with these European directives, EN standards are developed, and the European Union has assigned consultants to oversee the development of these standards. They are not in the committees, but they assess what is being prepared by the committees. And this is nowadays a bit of a challenge, because it's bringing a lot of bureaucracy, and depending on the consultant, there are different criteria. So that there is not a harmonized criteria, and it is something that could be probably be addressed. And finally, another challenge is the use of the standards. I mean, before I was talking about this rolling stock EN 45545 standard applied in China. Now, in many countries, standards are just a tick that you need to have for a product to be used in a project. And we have to train the industry, train the specifiers, the designers, and the deciders to go from one simple tick to multiple ticks. What I mean with that is it happens in China a lot, and I'll give the example of these products for rolling stock that have been developed according to the EN standard in China. What many companies in China seek is to have the certificate according to that standard. So it usually, it happens very often that they will test only some of the parts, some of the features of the standard according to the standard. They will do it right, but in the end, it's not the complete standard. So they don't have all the points required by the standard. And that combined with the lack of knowledge of the deciders, the engineers, the ones approving or not a product according to a standard, because they don't know the details of the standard, they will approve products that have not really passed the standard. Example, when you want to test flammability of a product, the thickness of the specimen matters a lot. So if you have a very thin specimen of the product and you try to burn it, the flammability will be high. It will burn quickly, and it may be more difficult to pass the standard. So what is a way to pass the standard? If you have different sizes of products, the biggest size of the same product range will have a thicker a wall, right? So the specimen will be thicker, and you pass the flammability test in an easier way. So you get your pass for only that thickness. But the EN 455 standard, 45545 standard is asking that every thickness being used in the project, the cover is usually thinner, also consider the cover, have to pass the test. And this is not done. But the project goes ahead according to that standard with the wrong product. So this is something, still a challenge, and it has a lot to do with education of the market, of the end users.
Thank you, Albert. Regarding your last point about the consultants, which is what we call HAS consultants, HAS, actually that's a really important point, and as far as I'm aware, currently the ISO, so SAN and SANELEC, and the third European Standardization Organization, which is ETSI, is having a task force together with the European Commission discussing some technical aspects, including the consultants, and it's, from what I hear, it's making some progress. And hopefully this is an issue that is going to be solved, but it's, thanks for raising it up here, because it allows me to point out that actually there's something that is being done. I see that there have been already some questions on Slido, but before we move to Q&A, I would like to briefly address one last topic. So we talked about benefits, we talked about challenges. Now I would like a bit to project ourselves a bit in the future. And I want to do that by taking the opportunity of the European Year of Skills. 2023 is, as many of you might know, has been declared as the European Year of Skills. And I think skills is an important issue in order to make the system we are discussing, and we want to improve in a way, but to make it also sustainable and make sure that in the future we have the skills necessary and the system works better. So I'm interested in hearing a bit your opinion in a few words on how, according to you, we can ensure that the industry, businesses like yours, have the necessary skills to participate in standardization and to take the best they can out of it. And on the other hand, what should organizations, standardization organizations like SAN, SANELEC, and also ISO and IC at the international level do to better attract the necessary skills and better get the right skills that are needed in order to develop the right standards and develop them in the right way?
Well, I think something that that Albert was mentioning before, that goes along with what I was saying. It's key that the standards are co-designed with the market industry and with the people that are on the floor providing that service, whether it's a product or it's service. And so if we co-design, then we are more likely, sure, maybe not, but we are more likely to know which skill set is necessary across the board. And in doing so, we can plan the skill sets that need to be strengthened and the ones that we need to find that are new, because in our line of business, for example, an emerging skill set that we haven't encountered up to now is the digital front. Whether it's IoT, whether it's cyber crimes, whether it's digital marketing, the things that we need to provide to ensure a correct positioning of our service and ensure that what we do is compliant not only today, but is compliant also in the foreseeable future. In particular, with an eye towards the digitalization of these processes. We are putting our elevators and escalators online to address an issue of time to market in terms of repairing and restoring the operational activity of these lifts. By allowing us to do so remotely, we need to provide the necessary skill set for those technicians who up to now didn't require any digital skill set. We need to understand how to develop these interfaces. We need to understand that in doing so, we need to be aware of possible impacts with cybersecurity issues that are present in standards that are being written today, especially, and are evolving quite rapidly in this world of transitioning more so towards a digital world. And we need to have that skill set that unfortunately many the small businesses that I represent don't have locally. And this becomes an obstacle for the continuation of the company. If you don't have that skill set inside, how can you ensure compliant service in the future? So this is a challenge that we have in learning not only which skill set needs to be addressed and needs to be empowered in the future, but we need to understand how to get that skill set within these companies and how to provide a service that is reliable and that is a service that then these smaller companies can access at a low cost and very, very quickly. I think that is a challenge that we have.
Thank you, Patrick. And Albert?
Training and preparing to be ready for standardization in companies is something, first of all, expensive for the company. It takes a long time. It's long term. It's not something many companies are looking for short term. But if standardization requires time, it's long term. And it takes time for the companies. On top of that, you need, if you want to participate in committees, for example, you need more than time. You need languages, you need negotiation skills, and you need to know the standards. You cannot be in a committee if you don't speak the language of the standard and you understand the standard. So this is something that companies, sometimes it's a barrier for companies. It's too big for some companies, although it's an investment in many ways. So first of all, to encourage companies to participate in standards, this is very important, manufacturers and the other players. Train the teams. It's something that has to be done, so dedicate hours to train the teams so they can be competent in the standard. In the end, that raises the technical and the quality level of the company in many senses. There is another side about training, which is the user side, the decision maker side. Sometimes they are not not very familiar with parameters of the standards. They don't know well quality marks and what they mean. For example, this comes from experience of companies in different markets. So it is important to engage, and I think Sense and Elec does a lot of work linked to that, to engage all the players in the industry. On the other hand, as Patrick was saying, digitalization is very important and gaining more importance nowadays. We believe that digitalization helps the standards. And the reason is digitalization looks for parameters to be included in a table, in a description, so you can compare apples and apples. Standards are the tool to get to that. So digitalization and standards go together very well when it comes to practical terms in the industry. Finally, when it comes to how Sense and Elec can have access to the industry and what's available in the industry, etc. So as we were saying before, the industry has to follow the standards, but also the standards have to follow the industry and the innovations. So one possible way is to enforce the interchange between Sense and Elec and the EPO, the European Patents Office. So new products, new solutions are there and can come also into the scene.
Thank you, Albert, and thank you, Patrick. Regarding the exchange with EPO, by the way, it's I think yesterday or this week, in any case, is the 50th anniversary of the EPO, which is a good opportunity again for me to say that Sen and Senelec have signed in 2019 a memorandum of understanding with the EPO. I don't know if there's anything that's been done after that, but there is the point on patents is a very important one, is a very technical one, and I don't have the skills to talk about it now, and I also think it would need a debate. But that's a very interesting topic, and if you'll allow me, after our debate is over, I can inquire a bit internally and let you know more if you're interested in knowing what has been done and what we're doing. But apart from that, thanks for your answers. I think they are very important. It's also a very important topic that will need more and more focus, more and more attention. Also, with the new European standardization strategy, standardization is having an increasingly strategic role. So I think this also changes a bit also our approach as standardizers and our approach as European umbrella organizations to what can be done and how we should do that regarding skills, regarding preparing people. Maybe it won't just be anymore having experts, technical experts that end up doing standardization, but maybe we will start having people who are experts of standards and then they move from one company to the other, for example. It's an idea. But this is a topic that will need further reflection and is key. Since we have still a bit less than 10 minutes, I see there. There are a few questions from Slido. I would like to start with one, because I like this kind of questions about wishes, words, and etc. So if you could make one wish, and it could be granted. So there is the Aladdin genius that comes here and say, okay, you have one wish.
Usually there are three.
But here
This is
it's one genius because it's the crisis is hitting for everybody. So cost of life crisis is difficult also for the genius, so it's one. What would you like to add, remove, or change related to the interaction between standardization and the industry in Europe? Really, one wish, one word or one sentence.
You want to go first?
Well, it's difficult to condensate everything in one wish, but I think the workflow is very good, but I would improve fluidity of the standards development, approval, etc. So what we have commented before about external consultants that are doing a very important legal job, so standards can be related to directive and then to laws, can gain more fluidity, or track the industry changing, the standards have to change according to the industry, that's also fluidity. The system is good, but this is maybe what I would wish.
I agree. That certainly is an important aspect. It would reduce the cost of accessing and updating the information, which is an issue that we deal with consistently. And I think if we work on a more accessible standards, then we can ensure that everyone in the marketplace can benefit. And at the end of the day, we must remember that this has a final objective of building trust with customers, and we need to maintain that link as much as we can.
Thank you. I don't know if there are some questions here from the audience live. Okay, we have one question there, and then two questions. Maybe I can give my microphone. No? Okay. We take these two questions here. I would say one after the other, and then we try to pack them up in our answers. And then we move on with Slido.
Thank you for the insightful discussion. I'm Mila Tantar, and I'm active in Senelec in the GTC 21 in artificial intelligence, and I'm covering as convener the working group 2 on operational aspects. So I have a concrete question for you on conformity aspects, conformity assessment related aspects, which is the quality management standard which applies in manufacturing for the conformity assessment process. I know that in medical devices we have 13894, if I remember well, for quality management systems, and I was wondering which is the standard that you usually apply, like an overarching standard. Thank you. That's all on my side.
Thank you. Maybe we can take the second question, but remember this one, because it's very technical. Okay.
Shall I? Yeah. So my question was about the digitalization of standards. So how do you feel this will roll out in the future? Because in manufacturing we have sensors all over nowadays. Will this be enough for the measurement and for the quality assurance? Will the clients rely on sensoring approaches to measure what is happening in the manufacturing chains?
Okay. Can we answer to already these two questions?
Yeah, about the first question, when it comes to manufacturing standards, from the manufacturing point of view, we have two groups: the quality standards, ISO standards, that different sets of ISO that are being applied. 14001 is one of them. And then the quality assessment, which is also very important. We have seen it doesn't happen that much in Europe, but in Middle Eastern countries, there is still a mismatch between the quality standards and what owners request there. And they still use the old style of they want to assess the manufacturing plant to see the production, they want to see with their own eyes. They don't trust the different tools that are there for them to trust. And this is a challenge nowadays because the amount of bureaucracy that this creates is huge. When it comes to, of course, to product manufacturing, the standards, product standards are the ones applied. About the second question about so I understand of, okay, there are many sensors nowadays. How do you assess the quality of the readings of these sensors, for example? And if these sensors are used as part of quality assessment or conformity with the standard, how do you match that? I think it's a very challenging thing, because nowadays we depend more and more about on sensoring and calibration, etc. And I'm not the expert in this field, but probably more standards for this field or should be developed.
Patrick, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think the calibration issue is pertinent also to the activities that we are putting through and introducing in the lifts, because we are transitioning to IoT systems that if they're not well calibrated and not well managed from the start, we get some false readings, both good and bad. And if nothing else, it creates confusion, and it undermines that trust that we've developed so well in these years. It's a key aspect, and it's also an aspect that needs to be addressed with new standards. It's an increasingly important part of our business, and we'll need a new skill set also within our organization, which certainly is not to par yet, but we need to develop it.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. We have 1 minute and a half. I will just read just one question to which I would like to answer to conclude. Actually, 2 questions. From what I hear, standards cost money. Any tip for an SME already struggling for accessing finance? And the second question, which is related, and I will conclude on that. What advice would you give to begin understanding how standards work and where to find more information? If I may, I think I'll try to answer that. I invite all of people who are interested to know more about standards to contact your... You can do SAN and SANELEC, but SAN and SANELEC is a bit further removed. I invite you to contact your national standardization body. Every European country, or actually country participating to a single market, has 1 or 2, depending if they have a different one for electrotechnical matters, national standardization body. Normally, a lot of these bodies have in place information center for SMEs. They can help you access standards. They translated and adopt the standards. So there was also a question about translations. So you're invited to do that. Normally, we're all, like, in standardization, we are all relatively friendly people. So you can contact, you can come to us, come to your national standardization body. And I spoke enough. The event is over. But thanks a lot to our, I hope it was interesting. Thanks a lot to our speaker, Albert and Patrick, and thanks a lot to our audience here and remotely. And of course, if you want to continue the conversation, we can meet outside and continue the conversation with, I think, a glass of wine or of San Francisco. You said it's called San Francisco, the cocktail.
San Francisco.
San Francisco. So thanks a lot, and good evening.